What's good, everybody? Welcome into BTT Studios. Of course, I am the coach, and I got to tell you, today is a very, very special day. As many of you know, as we continue to grow and we continue to climb, we're looking for the best and brightest content creators out there in the space that we live in. And one of the biggest spaces is pro wrestling. And our guest today, he is so entertaining. We're talking about acting, comedy, directing, writing. The man can do it all. And I'm telling you, after today, you're all going to be scrambling to go find all of his content. Over 1 million followers on TikTok, huge following on Instagram and the X. Let's not waste any more time and bring in our guest today inside BTT Studios, Shane Hartline. Shane, welcome to the show for the first time. How are you, sir?
Oh man, I'm good. Just kicking off my day with the coach. What is a better way to start? I think some people, like start with a good balanced breakfast, but I think this is the way it's supposed. This is the way the God intended it.
See, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm
Yeah.
talking about. Now, we've got a million things I want to talk to you about. We'll get
Okay.
to WrestleMania because I'm sure you have your takes on that. But I want to start for people who don't know perhaps who you are
Mhm.
because your background is unbelievable. Star Wars, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Rock of Ages, Station 19, which I loved on ABC. I love those type of shows. You've done it all. Why? What has inspired you over the years to do so many different things?
I think that it's the blessing and the curse that I just was like born with, in the sense of I've never been the type of creator, I'll say, that can just do one thing. And some people that works, and that works for them, but for me, what excites me is I'll get an idea and I have to see it come to life. And over the years I've struggled with like people, telling me like, again, stay in one lane, just do one thing. But I don't know, like I think that we only get so much time on this planet, and I've done a lot in the brief time that I've been here, and there's still so much I want to do. I've dabbled in wrestling, I've done acting, I've done comedy, and there's just still so much I want to do. And I think that I think we're also in an age of entertainment that you don't have to do just one thing. But also, I think a lot of the things in entertainment are starting to bleed together, especially professional wrestling.
I think we've been connected in a different life because everything you just said is what I want the rest of my career to be. I hate being in a box. I've done a lot of great things as a talent, but that's all people look at me and say, he's just a talent. I'm more than that. You're
Mhm.
way more than just a talent, but you're also able to write and create your own things. When TikTok was starting out, and we're going to roll some of your incredibly entertaining skits here in a second. When did you sit down and say, you know what? TikTok, that thing, and then I'm assuming it takes a lot of time because your stuff is top shelf.
Oh, thank you, man. That means a lot coming from you. Yeah, I mean, TikTok. It just was the next platform for me because I had been making content. I mean, even before YouTube, my parents, the best thing they could have ever done for me is let me. And at the time when I was a kid, I look back and they're like, this was a good babysitter. They let me use their video camera, and back then, video cameras and content capturing devices were much different than they are now. But back then it was, and I still have it, my big old VHS camera. And
Wow.
so when I was 10 years old, the thing that brought me the most joy, and I thought it was magic, and it's still really magic if you think about it, is like being able to like I would literally set my camera up on my big ass TV in my bedroom and just create skits with my friends, or little stop motion videos with my action figures. And then the ability to like take the tape out of the camera, put it in the VCR, and show it and force people, anyone in my house, to watch it was just magic to me. And like seeing their reactions, and that, whatever that was, became so addicting to me.
Mhm.
And that has never changed. And so like I'll never forget, like I got into wrestling. I dabbled in independent wrestling when I started when I was like 16, but when I turned 18, YouTube started. And that
Mhm.
uh, because before that, online, it wasn't as easy to like put out video. It was a very difficult, complicated process, but YouTube made that so easy. And so from then I just put out content on YouTube, which then became putting out content on MySpace and Facebook and then Vine. And then so when TikTok came along, I've never been one of those people that are like, another platform. I'm like, no, great. Another
Oh, I
platform
love
where
that.
new eyes can see me. And the pandemic just kind of offered me a lot of time to really feed this beast. And so quickly, like things started to hit really early in the pandemic. And before I knew it, it was 100,000 followers. And then it just really grew and grew and grew. And yeah, it's turned into this incredible platform. And then that platform feeds into other platforms. And,
Sure.
so I just look at every place to post content as it's my own little TV channel and I can do anything I want with it.
And I can already tell from your vibe, because what we believe here at BTT, we've got several different shows, but the one thing that we're doing is cross-pollinating or collaborating with people like you, or bringing you onto what we do, because I feel like in today's media, there's a lot of networks that are getting away from the big, expensive studio shows. And then if you can be a one-stop shop like what you are, or kind of what we do, you become a lot more valuable to a potential employer or client or platform or network. And for somebody who does everything like what you do, I can only imagine the different calls and unique calls that you get from day
Mhm.
to day.
Yeah, I mean, especially like I don't think he'd mind me putting his name out there, but like especially like with this doing wrestling content, I mean, connecting with you is really surreal to me. It's like it's so cool. Like, and
That's
it's
awesome.
just the tip of the iceberg of the amount of people that have connected to me when I started getting really hyper specific with making content
Mhm.
with this passion of mine. Um, I had a phone call last week with Ernest the Cat Miller, and like
Oh, the
as
big
I'm
cat.
talking to him, I'm like, one, he's one of the nicest dudes in the world,
Yes.
but as I'm talking to him, I'm like, I grew up watching you, man. Like, this is the coolest thing ever to like be able to connect with these people. And like, so yeah, I mean, I kind of lost train of thought there.
No,
Just
it's
thinking about,
okay. But we're talking
yeah,
about, making the content. Chris
yeah.
Van Vliet, who has like the number one podcast in the world, he's been doing he's one of my best friends. And he said, Coach, I've been doing this for 15 years. And everybody thinks the last that I just started 2 or 3 years ago. But when he got hyper specific about just doing wrestling interviews, that's all he does. Instead of trying to be all over the place, that's when all of a sudden 1 million subscribers and all that. Yeah, go ahead.
I think the thing for me too is like I was always very like, especially lately, I'm very intentional because the goal for me is to I want to be an actor. I want to create my own films. I want to be, I have the visions of winning an Oscar, all these things. But what I realize is like you do have to be very intentional, especially with content.
Mhm.
So, but I've always urged people, I'm like, what are you most passionate about? Make content through that, but I can still showcase my acting and my comedy through what I'm doing. And so as long as like I'm doing that, I feel like I'm really fulfilled with my content because it kind of showcases me in every single facet, like which if you can find like that kind of lane with content, like Chris
Oh,
does it amazing because it's within wrestling, but also showcases his hosting ability, which he's an incredible
absolutely.
so that if you can like sit and really like think about the things you really want to do, not the things you think you should do, but the things you really want to do, you can get really hyper specific with content. And yeah, and it took me a long time to be able to find that content because
Mhm.
I've always liked making content, but it's like it's only until lately that I've just felt so fulfilled with the content I'm making.
Well, that's the whole reason that I got back into wrestling after I went to ESPN. People said, Coach, you spent, damn near 15 years, my entire 20s and 30s. Why
Mm,
wouldn't you lean into that? And I was like, and then I'm so glad that I came back to it. I really,
mm,
really am. But we've got several things we want to roll in, because I
yeah.
want people to really understand where you come from, and then to get your reaction to whatever we roll in. So I want to start, producer man. I want to start with the therapist. Let's do the therapist first.
Okay.
Here we go. Let's roll tape. Therapist.
Undertaker, you've done some pretty horrible things. Killed your brother, killed your father. Why are you now deciding to kill my childhood by having a podcast? Nature boy Ric Flair, woo, says here that you think you might have a sex addiction. Woo-hoo. Okay, yeah, he is banging a chick right now, right in front of me. Hey, honey, Bret the Hitman Hart, when you see this, Stone Cold Steve Austin. I'm good, thank you. Now, normally I would say, and I'm sure many people would agree with me, that alcoholism is a horrific thing. How is it so cool when you do it? I'm asking for a friend. Booker T. Hulk Hogan, we coming for you. You said it. I didn't say it. Not me. Would never, ever say that. Stephanie, do we want to dive into how you and Hunter got married in Vegas? Sting, a goatee. Today I'd like to dive into why we think it was a good idea to leave that goatee on your face for the better part of 20 years of your career. Yeah, what were you thinking? And Iron Sheik. The Hulk Hogan. Okay. Right. Oh.
How in the world did you come up with that?
I oftentimes late at night get these ideas. I think like what I've realized is like wrestling is just like a treasure trove of content that can be plugged and played in many different types of things. And this is one of like many ideas that I've been wanting to execute. And I love that people have connected with it. It's funny. I want to, the most comments I got on that was like, I like Undertaker's podcast. I do too. I want to just say that I do too. I think I'm just touching on like the fact that we had our whole life this mystical guy that was never broke kayfabe is he and will still to this day hammer how important kayfabe is, and yet he's doing a podcast exposing everything. Anyways, I love Undertaker. One of my
But you're right. You're absolutely right, by the way.
One of my favorites of all time. Yeah, I don't know. I think that like, to answer your question very technically, I just came with it late at night, but like once I started diving into the game of what the character is, it's like, oh, like if you really dissected a lot of the stories in wrestling, it's like, yeah, some of these guys would need therapy. Like, like
I wish they would offer that to us years ago when I was there for my first day. I'd have been the first one at the door. There's no doubt about it.
I can't.
Oh, I love that you worked in, the Taker's, his podcast is now. Then you had an Iron Sheik reference, which is 30, 40 years ago. So you had a little something for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember Kamala, the Ugandan giant, of course?
Yeah.
Right? So to your point, they were having, I think it was a WrestleMania or something, and they were having all these legends come back. And I walk in the locker room, and he's sitting there. And he's putting on all of his makeup with the stars and everything like that. And so I'm used to, as a kid, Channel 67, him go, I walk around the corner. I'm like, oh, my God, there's Kamala, the Ugandan giant. And he goes, hey, coach, what's up, dog? Great. I'm like, no. Right?
Oh, yeah. That's Sting for me. Sting's my all-time favorite. And it's like all these, like, I'm so like particular with him. So it's like, I've never had the opportunity to really meet him. I've taken a picture with him, but like, I kind of am okay with that because it keeps the magic for me in my heart as a just diehard Sting fan. But I will say, if you're watching, the goatee, man, I don't like it. Do you? You do you, man. But I don't get it. And he's now painting it at like, I don't know if you saw the Wolfpack.
Yeah.
I'm like, my man, leave the magic. Leave it.
I'm so glad you brought up the whole kayfabe thing, because last week Triple H did a bunch of interviews where basically he was coming at guys like me or my partner Vince Russo, and he's like, all these guys are talking about us pulling back the curtain, and yet then they pull back the curtain on the podcast. And literally as soon as I watched that, Shane, a commercial came out for their new docuseries called Unreal, where they're literally the writer's room. The writer's room. I mean, to me, you're literally telling them how every piece of bread is made.
Also, I want to say you're welcome, WWE, because the writer's room, my writer's room videos, I don't know if there was some kind of like correlation or lighting of the fire under your ass to do it. I don't know, but
why don't we let our audience decide? You mentioned the writer's room. Hey, producer man, let's roll that right now.
All right, boys, The Rock is starting to pick up some steam. How do we add fuel to the fire?
Now, hold on, we don't want him to get so big that he becomes like a movie star or something.
Or get so rich that he'll want to own a piece of this place one day.
Or start his own tequila brand.
That'll never happen.
or start his own energy drink.
Be a bigger movie star than Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Guys, you know what we gotta do is we gotta give him dumb that'll never get over. We can't have anyone get big in the company. No,
We can have him bring a Cartman doll down to the ring with him.
No.
That's Golga. Yeah.
Sock friends with Rock. Do you think there was something there?
No, that would never work.
What if he drank blood?
Oh, no. What if he had a friend that was a mop? Dumb. You thought about it.
Guys, he's always talking about smelling what he's cooking, so why don't we give him a chef gimmick?
Brilliant. He could be a baker.
Hey, Rocky, we want you to start incorporating baked goods into your promo. Yeah, that'll keep him under control. Yeah, all right, see you later, bye.
Here to Rock the Baker.
You smell what The Rock is cooking?
The Rock says this: he is simply going to serve you up a piece of pie.
Bring The Rock some pie.
The Rock knows how you feel about pie, but how do you feel about strudel? You looking at the people's strudel?
If you smell what The Rock is cooking.
How good is that?
Oh,
my God. I've said in those meetings so many times, how did you come up with that one? That was just awesome.
Thank you, dude. Thank you, man. Yeah, the writers' rooms, that was like my first dip into making wrestling content again. And man, they're so fun to shoot. I have so many in the can too. I'm actually posting one when we get off this podcast, but man, they're just the most fun to shoot. I mean, you can kind of see it. I feel like people can see it as they're watching it, that we're just having the most fun shooting them.
So how many, is it just straight? Because I did a thing with Fluffy where I shot myself, but I just use an iPhone. People think you have all this equipment. How do you shoot those with all the different people?
Yeah, it was, I think the best decision we made when we first shot them was to shoot it on iPhone, because I don't know, there's a thing about content online where the more lo-fi certain content seems to work better in some,
I agree.
in some cases, because when we first shot it, we were struggling with the idea of do we shoot it with higher production value cameras or not, and I think the best thing we could have done was just shoot it simply with the iPhone. But we found this location and it just worked so well with the idea, and we just kind of we just get together and we have these bullet points for ideas, and we all just bounce and then shoot, and it's so fast paced, but it's the most fun thing I'm currently shooting.
Oh my God, it's absolutely amazing. And just so you know, back in the day when Vince Russo wrote for WWE, it was Vince, his partner, and then Vince McMahon. That was it. And that's when the stuff was the best. My very first interview, by the way, was with The Rock. So he holds a special place for me.
Definitely.
But when they started adding shows and writers, imagine this, Shane. You would have 12 people in a room, kind of like what you've shot, but most of them were 22, 23-year-old kids. They were on a 3-month tryout, and a lot of them were former Disney kids or former child actors that couldn't get gigs in Hollywood. And we had one kid who signed, his wife and daughter were still in L.A. He was so miserable that when we went to L.A. for a show, and everybody was getting in the cars to go back to the airport to fly back to Connecticut, we couldn't find him. He texted me and says, "Coach, let them know I'm not coming back."
Oh my God.
He quit in the middle of the day when we were at Staples Center in LA. He just couldn't take it. Because imagine, here's what used to happen too. They would write the show all week. And remember, we're 52 weeks a year, every single Monday night. So you get to Saturday and you'd think you'd want to go to the beach or do something. Vince would make them have a 6-hour conference call. I kid you not, rip up the entire show, start from scratch, and then have 2 days to get it done before Monday Night Raw. That was a typical week.
I can't imagine what that was like. I
Brutal.
can't imagine.
Brutal. That's why there's been 1,000 different writers that have come through. And they're also terrified of their own shadow because they're on a 3-month tryout basis. And so what you did, I think if every single person in the WWE who's been there watches that, and I'm going to send it to all my friends, they're going to die laughing. They'll be like, oh, PTSD, PTSD.
I was going to say, give them a little bit of PTSD. Oh,
no doubt, no doubt. Now, I know you have another one. It's called WWE Tryout. All right,
yeah.
we've got to watch this one, and I got to have you explain this one. Producer man, roll this one here.
This is going to be unlike any tryout tape you've ever seen. Because, actually, I don't want to be a wrestler. I don't want to be a WWE champion. This isn't about me. And I know you guys are all about your stories right now. You want to finish the story? Well, I got a story for you. Hi, my name is Shane Hartline. And I first dipped my toe into wrestling way back in the mid-2000s in Florida. And since then, I've worked with Hall of Famers, former world champions, even Eric Bischoff. Kicked his ass. You're welcome. It's true what they say. It really is. Nobody ever really retires from wrestling. Am I right? And I've worked in film, I've worked in television, Star Wars Obi-Wan Kenobi on Disney+, ABC Station 19, Rock of Ages with Tom Goddamn Cruise. But who's counting? Not me. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Shane, why would you want to go back to wrestling? You've already done what they all want to do. You got to Hollywood. You know why I want to go back? I feel selfish. I feel selfish watching the thing I love so much and not being a part of it.
Unbelievable. That is unbelievable. It really is fantastic.
Thank you, dude. Thank you.
Man, I love how you put yourself over without putting yourself over. If you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You know,
there's a lot
tell
of
me the creation of that.
Yeah, so I had the opportunity through a friend that works at the company to get a tape in. Haven't heard anything back, but like those things like I got the tape in the height of WrestleMania season, so I also don't expect to hear anything back soon. But I started thinking about when this opportunity popped up of like, what if I was to do something in wrestling again? What would I first and foremost want to do? And I'm 38 and I could wrestle again, but the thought of like getting back in, going through developmental, like all that thing, by the time that I would end up on television, I'd be in my early 40s. So it's like, if I could do anything I want to do in wrestling, why not like showcase what I want to do? And what I would rather do is take what I've always been more passionate about, the storytelling, the promos and all of that thing, and use that to elevate someone else in the business. Because I think the manager, there are still managers obviously in wrestling, but back in the 80s and 90s, there was so much more of that. And I think it's not just a lost art, but it's something that we've there's only a few people doing it really great. And so if I could showcase myself in that kind of lane of something I feel like I'd be really good at, then that's what I wanted to do with this tape. So I really went all in to do just that. And we'll see. Like, it's something that I think that I could bring a lot to the table with and elevate some people, and it would just be a dream gig.
We're going to get that in front of people, because I'm telling you right now, Kathy Kelly, who does backstage interviews, she's training right now at the training center, because if you're a manager, you got to be able to take bumps.
100%.
And and she's never wrestled a day in her life. And I think she's decent. She's fine. But that right there, I've got to send it to my friends, because what you just said about elevating, that's what a manager is really all about. And, Captain Lou and Bobby Heenan and all those guys, that's what they did. People ask me all the time, Coach, would you go back? I said, only in a role like that. I would never want to do commentary again. But I think with you, with the creativity, you could be a triple threat. And I'm not just saying this because you're here and blowing smoke up your ass. You could get in there and write your own stuff, create your own stuff, shoot it. And to me, to be able to do all those things is very, very rare, because there's not that many people backstage that can do one of those things. But you can do all of them.
Thank you, man. Yeah, and I think that I'd want to, given the opportunity, I think that a lot of people, and it's no fault on their part, the thing that I've noticed, and I've worked with many aspiring wrestlers at wrestling schools I've done like promo classes and stuff. The thing I've realized that a lot of aspiring pro wrestlers neglect, and they don't even realize they're neglecting it. I think it's just the tradition of wrestling training overlooks something that's so important, but the acting training, that muscle in your head that like a lot of people don't realize is a muscle that also needs to be worked, not just your body,
Yes.
not just wrestling training, but I think that that's what I'd want to offer too. Is say, given the opportunity to come into the WWE and have some wrestlers under my belt that I could help. What I'd really want to do also is help give what I've learned through acting and my years in the entertainment business back, because it is something that I've worked really hard on through acting schools, improv training. But it is something that doesn't come naturally to people, and it's very uncomfortable. And you do have to kind of like, in a sense, deprogram yourself to get back to your like full, what I call your full open true self that we were like born into on this planet. Not to get too spiritual, but like, I feel like, that's something that a lot of aspiring wrestlers don't spend enough time on. And that's something that I feel like that's my strength, and that's what I'd like to give back.
This is so fascinating. This conversation, this is why I love doing it, because everything you hit on is kind of what I did when I was there, but I also truly believe, and I say it all the time, if you can't talk, you can't get over. If you can't make people believe in you or care about you, we saw, at WrestleMania, Dom was a straight heel, and then you didn't realize how much the fans were invested in him. He wins the title. All of a sudden, he gets a big ovation. Everything. I used to run a room on the road called the pre-tapes room, and during the day, all we would do was work on character development, like what you're talking about. I definitely have to get you, because to me, and you've never talked to anybody at WWE ever, or have you?
Only through this. We could talk off camera, but like, I think only through this tape, it's just been a little connecting with certain people, but nothing serious. I mean, there were rumors when I was training back in the day that there were people looking at me or whatever, but like, nothing really. No.
Well, I mean, they showed about 25 celebrities on the broadcast the other day, and I don't think any of them could do what you're doing. Not one.
Man.
Maybe little Yachty. Maybe little Yachty could.
Maybe
do
little
it,
Yachty.
But maybe little Yachty. Let's get into WrestleMania, because that's what we're coming off of right now. And to me, the ending kind of overshadowed anything else good that happened in the 2 nights. Highest grossing event in the history of the WWE. That happens when you charge $15,000 for bananas. But then you have The Rock, who started the whole thing in Elimination Chamber, and then we didn't hear anything from him. Not 1 second on social media, not 1 second on the shows, and then he doesn't show up at the end, and I think that took away everything that the fans, because they were anticipating. What did you make of the ending?
I feel the same. I think as we speak, he's going to be on Pat McAfee. So I'm very curious to hear what he has to say. But I think that, I was watching it with some friends, and I did some shows in Vegas and then drove back, solely because like I couldn't go into credit card debt to go to WrestleMania. I also sometimes just prefer like just watching it with my boys at my house. But that was the general consensus, is everyone is sitting here expecting The Rock to come out because it was what was presented. And we were all just kind of, I wanted Cena to win. And I think that is awesome. And I think everything Cena's doing is amazing. And, doing heel in a way that I've really never seen it done before. I think it's incredible, but still there was just this like floating, expectation of, we're going to get The Rock here in a second. Oh, there goes the ref. Here he comes. And you got Travis Scott. And it's like, wow, that is cool for pop culture awareness. I think The Rock not showing up really was a big letdown to wrestling fans. I think that if you had no intention of coming to Mania, then don't set that foundation at Elimination Chamber. You can't do that to the fans. I think that I don't know. There is probably inevitably a lot more at play than any of us know. Maybe we'll find out a little bit more of that with his appearance on Pat McAfee. But like, I just think that it was a big letdown, not just for me watching, but I think every wrestling fan.
I feel like over the years, the allure of wrestling, and especially when I was there, what Vince McMahon taught me was the surprise is the business, which is why I think a lot of us OGs get so upset when they give away the business and they say, okay, one of my favorite things was with The Rock and a guy named Eugene in San Diego. We snuck Rock in. Nobody knew he was going to be there. The crowd went absolutely banana land. And when you don't have that, sometimes you just got to give the fans what they want. Don't you think so, Shane? Last year, if Cody wouldn't have won, the crowd would have gone. We're like, we're invested for 2 years, and now we get it. We're invested for 3 months, and we don't get it. And to me, all the stuff they did in Vegas, it's just like almost like it didn't matter. It felt like to me.
It's a bit confusing because you just start. There's a lot of times in the past where you watch wrestling and I don't know. You've been in these rooms outside looking in. We've always heard the narrative of wrestling fans won't remember. It doesn't matter. Like they'll forget. No, wrestling fans don't forget. And in fact, when you think they do, you're insulting their intelligence. And I think that wrestling fans don't want their intelligence insulted. So if he couldn't have appeared, that should have been something they took into consideration and done at least something with. I don't know what off the top of my head, but you can't just act like the whole foundation you built, which was an incredible foundation at Elimination Chamber. I think before Elimination Chamber, there was hype for WrestleMania, but nothing like what became instantaneously after that Cena heel turn and all of that. Like, so to just ignore it is confusing. And then I really thought, okay, Rock can't make it at Mania. Well, Cena's definitely going to address it on Raw, why Rock wasn't there. Or there was no addressing of it. And so clearly there's maybe more at play behind the scenes. I don't know.
That's what I believe too.
And
I believe that too.
Maybe now that it's one of those things that like, maybe it was Rock was like, nobody will really care. I don't know. And that now he's going to be on Pat McAfee. Maybe it is because there was a big outpour of disappointment.
I don't think there's any question.
So funny. I just got a text from a friend. Please tell me you're watching this. Can I cuss on this?
Yes, absolutely.
Somebody just said, please tell me you're watching this horse shit.
Oh no.
So we'll have to see what's happening, but
well, here's the deal, because I love this back and forth. I'm developing a show that you're 100% going to be on. By
Let's
the way,
do it,
right? Like we're going to have a show on Stadium, and it's going to be just this roundtable discussion. Because to me, when he's on the board of directors now. Okay, he got a $30 million payday, and then he got another payday, and then he was on the Netflix January 6th saying thank you for giving us $5 billion. And so the last 3 tweets that he made were 3 days before WrestleMania, and they were about a Project Rock shoe from Under Armour. You're on the board of directors, and you don't tweet even one time, no posts whatsoever. And I've been there, Shane, and I made it very clear on my shows. Triple H and Rock hate each other. And the reason, and you can probably understand this, being in the Hollywood scene, is Triple H always wanted to be what The Rock turned into. And he was in Blade 3. I actually had to fly to Toronto for the debut of Blade 3 all those years ago. And for whatever reason, Rock hates Triple H as well. And I have a million stories on that. But to me, with the TKO taking over and now becoming more Hollywood, don't you think like they're prioritizing making this a show instead of, when I was there, is you're this character 24/7. And wherever you walk, wherever you go, you are the Undertaker, you're Arcane, you are whoever. Now it's like, let's turn it off and turn it back on. And Cena did the same thing on McAfee on Monday. He was the babyface John Cena again. And I think it confuses the hardcore fan. Do you?
I absolutely think it does. I think it's one of the things that, like, I think the guy who does it best, that feels the most consistent, is Paul Heyman. I think Heyman stays really consistent because he gets it. I think that the way I look at it, anytime you're on any WWE camera, you should be in your character, whatever that
100%.
Character may be. And I think that only helps the product. I think one of the biggest recent cases of that was when I think it was Elimination Chamber when the Cena turn happened. Immediately, Rock goes on the press conference and acts and just immediately goes out of character. It's just like,
Yes.
what does it
Yes.
hurt to stay in character? Like, I don't know. I just like, I'm always like devil's advocate. What does it hurt to stay in character?
For him, I don't like giving him a pass, but he is the one guy that does have big movies and he
Yeah,
does
sure.
them, and I get that. But if you're going to buy in and you're going to take the $30 million and you're going to be a big role of this, then you can at least carry it through the press conference. And then Cena does the same thing. And to me, Rock will be the final boss, and then he'll post a 10-minute video with a Make-A-Wish kid, which that's why I give him a pass.
Sure.
But to me, when you're going into a press conference and you want people invested and you want people to spend 15, even the nosebleeds was $1,000 a ticket. And to me, it's got to be as real as possible. Vince Russo teaches me all the time, coach, it's got to be realistic. And in a realistic world, The Rock never would have started that and then not finished it. And to me, I agree with you. There's something going on. If your friend just texted you that whatever he said on Pat McAfee is horse shit, here's exactly what happened, Shane. The powers that be called him and said, we're getting shredded over here, and you need to come on and you got to help us with this. And he was never advertised before last night. We didn't know he was going to be on Pat McAfee. So to me, there's a lot going on. And I love your perspective because now that Netflix is involved, I feel like they have been so heavy on the creative, and Vince McMahon never would have allowed it. Do you think that the Netflix deal has skewed it more towards the entertainment? It's a show as opposed to let's grind for 52 weeks and believe in whoever you believe in.
Yeah, maybe. I think that if that's the case, then that's fine. I still think that there's a way, okay, that giving a press conference as an example, where he can dive into like the corporate details. And I think Triple H could do this too. You can dive into the corporate details, cover all those bases, but then almost like dive into a gray area a little bit where you're still in a little bit of character. So it just leaves this ambiguity of like, wait, what's really happening here? You don't have to go full corporate and act like what you just saw is all bullshit. I think that there's a way that you can toe the line and do both, where he can cover the bases, do what he has to do, but then, bring out the acting ability and like, wait, what's his real opinion about this character or man?
Love that.
I think there's a way you can do all of it.
There's no question about it. And what we saw, and Cena's the same way. And I don't know if you know this. I traveled with Cena for a while.
Oh, cool.
And so I knew him a lot better than most. And he cares about the business so deeply. And he also believes that in order to have a full career, you've got to be able to have been a babyface and a heel, which is why he agreed to do it and cost himself millions of dollars in merchandise sales, which is a fact. But now he's going on social media and doing the same. If you believe in yourself, don't let any, and he's doing the babyface tweets. And then he goes on McAfee and he says, I'm going to ruin the wrestling business, turns around to the crowd and says, but you're always there for us. And he turns back into the corporate guy. So everything you just described, you can do, but I feel like there's a tug of war at the top. And now Triple H and The Rock, and I don't want it to ruin my fandom or your fandom. And I feel like we're starting to go down that road because now we're past Mania, and I don't have a good feeling inside of me.
Yeah, I think that there's a few guys out there that are really doing it well. I think that, like I said, I think bottom line, like when you're on a WWE camera, like I think that you should be in character. I think that like there's a lot of like Karrion Kross is really. I'm a huge fan of. He's a friend of mine, but I also
tell me why. Tell me why.
I think that he's real. I think that he gets it in that like every podcast, every camera is an opportunity to showcase himself, elevate himself, and to show his acting ability because he's also an actor. The acting ability, there's guys like MJF that like always in character. Like
always,
I think that those are the guys that will really do big things in this business. Already are. You don't end up on the stages those guys are at without being talented. But that's just how I feel. I think that I don't know if that answers your question, but like I think that is how it is done. Is you need to just kind of be in character most of the time, but you still can touch on the business if you have to.
Well, Karrion Kross did that perfectly with Sam Roberts the other day. I'm sure you saw that.
Oof.
And I questioned, I said, is this a shoot or is this a work? And if we're asking that question, that means it's really, really well done. Because I didn't know if it was real or not. And he still put over the business. He still put over AJ Styles in a backward way. And I've been saying this forever, so I'm so glad you brought him up, that here's a guy that you should be pushing to the moon. And they have not. And I'm sure that's frustrating for him to watch everything happen at WrestleMania, the shit ending, and all he's known for is a sit down with Sam Roberts. That'd be frustrating for me.
It's gotta be. It's gotta be. I think that he's smart though. Like, I mean, back in the day, you could argue that like Stone Cold did it at, Punk did it, but now what used to be the only opportunity to do that would be on television, which is a huge risk. I think that there's a lot more places now you can like take these calculated risks to is he, I think after there's a moment in the end of and again, is it real, is it not, but those are the best moments, when Scarlett kind of taps his shoulder and says his real name, and she's like, Kevin, like as he starts talking to the guy in the truck, I'm like, oh, this is good. These are the moments that elevate people to next level. And I text him after, and complimented him. But I think that that podcast interview might be the moment that elevates him to that next level. I mean, he's undeniable. I don't know what it takes for some people like him to be given the stage or the opportunity. And there's so many other people out there. I'm like you, I'm friends with so many people in this business that still deserve that stage and that opportunity. Like,
give me a couple other names that you think
I'd love to.
that you think should be getting a push that right now are kind of stagnant.
He's a friend of mine, but I think he's beyond talented. He's on the independent scene, and he was in WWE for a second and a part of a group a group of guys that because of a bad story at a weird time were just like pushed aside, but he was a part of Retribution and he was Slapjack. My friend Shane Haste is next level talented. He's on the independent scene and he's incredible on the mic. He's incredible in the ring, and just somebody that I wanted to give a little spotlight to, because again, one of these people that have been just, the circumstances of like what he was given, like he did the best of what he was given, but like I think he's still the best is yet to be seen with someone like him. But there's so many other people. Let's see, diving into WWE, I think I'm having a hard time.
Well, what do you make of Dom, who's not your traditional, but he's kind of bought into being a heel, maybe better than almost anybody ever has, in my opinion.
I think Dom really connects with the new audience that they're trying to tap into, the younger audience. Dom's cool, man. He's just a cool kid. Like, but he also gets it. He's also somebody that has, for the most part, everything I've seen stayed in character. But I think for the most part, he is his character. Like
he is.
He loves chicken tenders, and he's not afraid if that's not cool to say that. And I think that like that makes him cool to be authentic. I think when you are authentically you, that is when you really shine. And
that's what Rock taught me.
Yep.
Rock always said you just yourself turned up 10 notches.
Yeah.
That was his favorite saying.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I think like there's so many people that have yet to.
I think Braun Breaker finally got his, we're taping this on a Tuesday. Finally, he got the rub, and now he's in that main event conversation with CM Punk, Seth Rollins. So to me, when you get that rub from a guy like Seth Rollins, that means the world to a guy like Braun Breaker. Yes,
absolutely. And having like Paul Heyman behind him, like, yeah, Braun's just about to go through the stratosphere. We all kind of expected it. I mean, he's got the pedigree. He's like undeniable. It just sometimes is like right place, right story, right time. And like, I think this is going to be it, for him. It's exciting. Like, I mean, the whole landscape of, I mean, Bloodline was such a focus for a second, but I feel like that's not now. And now there's this
No.
whole new chapter era that we have to look forward to. It's really exciting.
What do you expect to see from, because I feel like I was so lucky to be there when I was during the Attitude Era. And
Absolutely, dude.
right, I think it was the best time. You had, I use the word competition, and I have people who don't understand go, Coach, they don't compete. It's predetermined. And I said, you have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, also
because,
the aura that you
Mhm.
of the era you were a part of, I don't think has been replicated since. That was something, and not a tangent, but to go back, that I felt like WrestleMania this year was kind of missing this aura that it usually has, this magic. I felt it in moments, but not this like blanket aura magic that it usually has for me.
I feel
But
that. I feel that.
back in Attitude Era, early 2000s, man, it was a surreal time.
Well, I'm telling you why. We had one night. There wasn't this 2 night stuff. And it was like, I always say it's like this, that the main event spots. And I remember I was there. I did the people talk about it to this day, the skit with Rock right before he wrestled Hulk Hogan. And they both got $1 million payday. If you're in the main event back then, it was $1 million bonus on top of whatever your salary was. Now they put it together like storylines. You got Jey Uso and Gunther, because of his entrance, he comes out first, and you're fighting for the World Heavyweight Championship. People forget, Shane, that night at WrestleMania 18, Triple H and Vince decided this is going to be the most important title in WWE. So people forget that Chris Jericho and Triple H, they wrestled after Rock and Hulk Hogan, which was the biggest mistake in the history of WrestleMania. Right?
I remember watching it. I mean, I think that's probably my favorite WrestleMania. I think boiling it down, like I think in culture, I think in entertainment, especially, too much is not good. I think that this like kind of excess of content culture, I think this binge watching of content culture is not helping the business. I think
Agreed.
I think we need to kind of like reprogram and get back to that man, when I was a kid, like I only got Monday nights for a while, and like Monday night was the best night of the week for me. Like
Ever.
and it was because that was it. Like that was all I got until the pay-per-view, and I was fine with that. Like you know, I think we're never going to get back to that, obviously, but like, how do we get back to making everything feel special if there's every night of the week wrestling's happening?
Well, think about it from a writer's perspective, because if you had to write 52 episodes of Friends, it would never happen. And look at just this week. You had all kinds of shows on Thursday. Fluffy was there, Van Vliet was there, all this kind of stuff. Then WWE World was packed. The lines were 3 hours just to get in. Then Friday you had SmackDown. You had the Hall of Fame that went till 2:30 in the morning because Triple H had a speech that was well over an hour.
People are falling asleep.
Yes, they were falling asleep. It's the third time, by the way, he's got inducted, but that's another story. Then you've got a morning show with NXT. Then you've got night one with a 2-hour pre-show, which was 6.5 hours. And then you got Sunday, another 6.5 hours. And then they have the Undertaker one-man show after one of the nights. And then you've got a roast, which, by the way, video is leaking, and it was awful. You talk about going over the line. Certain people went way over the line, and that's starting to leak out today as well. To me, they're going after every last dollar they can wring out of every family, and I don't think it hurt this year because they made every dollar. I think it could hurt, Shane, in 5 or 10 years when the families say, I'm not even going to bother going to WrestleMania anymore.
Yeah, I mean, this was like, I've been fortunate to go to a handful of WrestleMania events, but this was the first year where I was literally in the city, and I'm like, I could have gone, but it just didn't make sense to me financially. I got a wife and like a dog and rent and all these things, and like
life.
And I know friends that were going into credit card debt to attend all these things, and I'm like, is it worth it? And that's not for me to say it is or it isn't. I find the product, I'm a big fan of wrestling. I want to be able to go to all these things, but they do need to consider that not everybody can afford all these things. And I
Exactly.
think, like you said it best, I thought it too, is it's not going to affect this year. And I had a conversation with my dad about it too. I'm like, cause he's like, yeah, I'm like, yeah, man, they did great. They had a lot of people. And he's like, yeah, but will they next year? You know, like
Your dad's right. Your dad's right.
I think that that's something they need to consider.
I go back to Vince all the time, and I know people have their opinions about him and all this kind of stuff. But as you get a little farther, you've seen him. He showed up at the Super Bowl. He showed up at Madison Square Garden, and there wasn't that vitriol that I think people expected. The one thing he always taught me and us, Shane, is that it's about the family. It's about the fans. And he would never have put Bret Hart and Stone Cold out on the stage and then given himself his own music and entrance. It was never about him. Sure. It was about the fan base. And so to see them do what they did, I can only imagine his reaction to that. But you see all these executives on CNBC going, and this is a direct quote from Mark Shapiro. He's a CFO. He's like, we're selling out so fast, our shows, that clearly we're not charging enough for our tickets. Can you imagine a CFO saying that?
I think
he said it.
You know, despite anyone's or my personal opinion on Vince, I think that obviously, there was a lot of brilliance with that man, clearly. And I think that even an example is I'm watching WrestleMania this year. I one thing I get, but I'm not as big a fan of, is the advertisements on the ring. I think what that immediately tells people is like, the one thing we're looking at first and foremost is the ring, and you're slapping it with ads all over the place. You're immediately telling us this isn't about the wrestling, it's about the money. And the moment you start doing that too much, you start to lose the magic and the aura, and people, I worry, like you said, over time are going to start like pulling back a bit, because they're like, this isn't about us anymore. This is about just making as much money as possible, which, you know, you see starting to happen in many aspects of entertainment and how it's affecting entertainment. Like I'm out here in Los Angeles, and the entertainment business has never struggled more, because you do have a lot of these like money hungry CEOs that are making decisions not based on, let's not make a good movie. Let's make a movie that checks all the boxes. Does it have a major star? Is it an Avengers type movie? All these boxes, we're going to check all the boxes without answering the first question of, is it a good movie? Like, you
Simple.
know, I think that should be on top of everything. And in wrestling especially, is like, is the story good? Are we servicing the fans? And then let's think about how we can make the most money possible. But going back to ticket prices, you got to answer those two questions first. I think that you got to take care of the fans, because I worry that if the trend starts continuing in this direction of, it's not been getting cheaper, it's getting more and more expensive, and they're throwing more and more events at us. And granted, you don't have to go to everything, but like, you know, I do think that is something they really need to consider before it's too late.
I'm so glad you said that about being good first. I think in any industry, because I hate the check the boxes thing. People have asked me all the time, Coach, would you accept a Hall of Fame nomination? And I said, first of all, there's not a brick and mortar Hall of Fame. It's just a made up night on a Friday night.
It's in our heart, Coach.
Yeah, I know. But then I say, look at some of the people that have been inducted without naming names, because I do feel like I don't want to disrespect the guys. They've got the rings, the Booker T's and the Dudley Boys, and they've earned that. But you have, for example, this weekend, there were some that you're like, really? And to me, they're checking a box. All right, we got to have a female. We got to have a tag team. We got to have this. And then when they didn't have enough star power, they created, a Hall of Fame match now so we can get Bret Hart and Stone Cold Steve Austin. So it's almost like they're still putting together a show in what should be just, you've earned it, come out here, congratulations. So they're even manipulating that, in my opinion. That's why I don't think I would ever accept, not that they would ever give it to me.
Sure.
But,
I totally get where you're coming from. I've always thought, like, how have they not run out of, I mean, inevitably everyone's going to have a ring, so it doesn't really mean that much, because they have to have people every year. I'm glad they're scaling back. There were years, I know you remember, where it was just like, man, there's like 10 people they've inducted. Like,
You know, the first year they brought it back, it was when we were in New York. It was like 2009 or 10, and they had 13 people, and I think it was superstar Billy Graham, and it was not on TV. So the first speech, you know, he spoke for 34 minutes.
Oh my
So what do you think the other 12 people thought? Oh, I can speak for 30 minutes too. We didn't walk out of there till it started at 7. We didn't walk out of there till 2:00 in the morning.
Oh my God.
It was brutal. 7 hours, 13 guys. Absolutely bananas. Then you have the other end of the spectrum. Do you remember the year that Hulk Hogan got inducted?
Uh-huh.
So that was on TV. So I was the voiceover guy. So I was like, coming up next, so-and-so, so-and-so. So Sly Stallone is supposed to induct him. And Vince is sitting right next to me at that little table in the back where I'm with my microphone. And every break, he's like, Coach, where's Sly? Where's Sly? Vince, I don't know Sylvester Stallone. I don't know where the hell he is. So we get to the break right before Hogan's going in. I kid you not, Shane. And all of a sudden, Vince is pissed. Where the is Sylvester Stallone? All of a sudden, the limo, we were at one of those stages, you know, Universal, whatever.
Uh-huh.
And Sly rolls up. Vince turns on a dime. Sly, my dog, all of a sudden, they're best friends. He goes, get out there. Sly's like, where's my teleprompter? And I was like, we don't use teleprompters. I think that's how I got so good on the mic, because we've never used teleprompters. So he didn't have a speech. It was the best speech I've ever heard for an inductor. He just went out there and spoke from the heart.
Wow. Yeah.
You know, but he didn't show up till the commercial break right before he was
That's
to walk
wild.
away.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Nobody does because we mask it. We cover it up. And that's the one thing I felt like we did better than anybody else. You just never know, which is why I don't like the new show they're going to come out with. But that's not my call. I want to wrap things up because I really want to have you on again. I really want to. I've really enjoyed this. But as you look forward, not just in the wrestling business, kind of fill me in on what you have going on, and as this entertainment world is now changing, and we all have to change with it. Where do you think the Shane Hartline brand is going to go?
Oh man, I want to do so many things. I think like right now what I'm working on to kind of elevate my name and brand in acting and comedy. I've taken I'm doing the very smart and logical thing of creating my own wrestling organization. Now, what that looks like right now might not be what people expect, but it's called Nearly Average Wrestling. And we are basically for the foreseeable future holding tryouts, both in person and virtually, where people, if you want to be a wrestler, a manager, an announcer, whatever, you can come on and you can audition and cut a promo, prove yourself. I think that I've had a lot of people message me wanting to be part of it, but like what I tell them is prove it. Like show me, make yourself viral and earn a spot in our company. And, what I will say, because all of these people that are coming to me asking, like, are the contracts real? Yes. Am I paying with real money? No. What I'm paying with is exposure and clout, which I think right now in wrestling means more than anything.
Hell yes.
Our platform that's what we guarantee. So I'm really excited because like my game plan is long-term game plan with Nearly Average Wrestling is to make it a traveling comedy wrestling show of sorts where we go to different cities, and at comedy clubs, we are going to hold open tryouts where you come, you try out, and there'll be a panel of judges both involved in wrestling and comedy that will give you critique and advice and things on the spot. So I'm creating this brand that will become like a touring comedy wrestling act. But I'm also using it to like elevate my name and then long-term lead to more bookings and opportunities to create my own films and projects inevitably.
Understood. Well, anything we can do here because we have a couple of shows on a big network as well. We'd be happy to do that. I believe in collaboration. I believe everybody wins if you support each other. We truly believe in that here at our brand. So anything we can do, I mean that. We'll push your stuff out there. And I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed this. And hopefully everybody at home did. Anything you need, let us know. But ladies and gentlemen, he is Shane Hartline. Check out all of his stuff. Give your socials real quick.
Yeah, I'm just Shane_Hartline on most socials. Just search Shane Hartline and I'll pop up.
There you go. I am the coach. He is Shane, producer man behind the scenes. We'll see you next time right here inside BTT Studios.